This is Andy Purwell for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. I'm up here in Manchester and I'm joined by trainer Jamie Moore. Jamie, how are you doing?
I'm alright, man. How are you, mate?
I'm all good, I'm all good. Would have been better if Sunday had gone to plan, but we'll come on to that afterwards. Obviously start off with the gym. Guy recently fought Turnsby Kulakmet this past weekend. Start off with him, his victory. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I thought it was a real good performance. Good experience under his belt, what he needs. Could have probably got him out of there in a round or two, but Nige slowed him down, said, you know, don't rush it. He's a tough kid, this guy. And, you know, ideally we wanted him to get some rounds under his belt. You know, I thought maybe he could have stepped on the gas a little bit more at 6 or 7 rounds, but he got a stoppage in the end. I thought the finish was fantastic. I thought he did really well. So he paced himself well. He had a few little obstacles to overcome, and it'll stand him in so much better stead for the future rather than if it had blasted him out in a round. So, yeah, all good.
What is the plan with him moving forward, Jamie? Because you've said to me before that you want to accelerate him towards the world scene as quickly as possible.
Yeah, the management have always said from the word go that they're expecting him to fight for the world title within 7 fights. So that is still the plan. They're looking at matching him in a pretty sort of big step up in the next one. There's a few names banding about. So yeah, it's exciting. I think they're looking at maybe around about end of October, November time for him to get him out again. And you know, you know, if they can make the matches what they're trying to do, then he should be well on track for a fight for the world title before 7 fights, like the plan was.
Moving forwards, obviously Akib Fiaz in the gym today. I spoke to Akib recently. He said that was trying to get out of one of the fight camp shows. Still waiting for an official opponent. Have you got anything kind of in store yet?
No, there's no opponent yet. There's a few names been bandied about. We've accepted them, but they've never come back with any confirmation yet. Which is, you know, it's always ideal if you can get your opponent fixed in early, because it gives them an opportunity to get a bit fitter, gives us an opportunity to work on stuff and maybe set out a little bit of a game plan. But Akib's pretty versatile, you know, he's really coming on loads. He's got so much experience for such a young lad now in terms of where he's been. You know, he's travelled around the world really with us now. He's been in camps with Carl, he's done a lot of sparring with Jack Catterall, so he's very adaptive in his style. You know, he came to me initially as a good pressure fighter, and he's you know, he's really good on the back foot now. His defence is coming on loads, his switch hitting's coming on. So just really try to add everything to his game so that in a couple of years' time he'll sort of have every box ticked.
I asked him, and I'll ask you as well, one name which I put to him was Yusuf Kamari. Obviously Yusuf Kamari beat Kane Baker, stopped him. Akib beating Kane himself. Would it be a name you'd be interested in? I
think it's those sort of fights for further down the line. I think our job is to navigate Akib through his career early on now. We're matching him tougher than most people would match their sort of 3, 4, 5-0 prospects like we have done with Akib. But, you know, we're not looking for a big fight as such yet, because we're developing him. He's a young lad. He deserves the opportunity to be developed properly, so that when he gets to that stage, he's equipped to do it. And that's what I'm saying to you. You know, I'd say within another 12 months, he'll be involved in fights like that, because, you know, he's one of them fighters where he's exciting, he sells tickets, and he's good. He's a good fighter. He's a good all-round fighter. He can fight on the front foot, he can fight on the back foot, and I want to make sure he's developed properly and he's got all those lessons learnt first before he's through into a biggish sort of fight.
Akib's had some experience of travelling over to America, and Matchroom have made no secrets about, with this deal with DAZN in the UK now, they want to start kind of moving fighters from the US over here and then UK over to the US. Do you think it could be an opportunity for Akib at some point, especially knowing that he has travelled over a few times just in training, from training perspectives, but an opportunity could present itself?
Yeah, I think it'd be great for him to experience that. I think it's always better to have that experience in a lesser fight early on in your career, so then it stands you in better stead in the future. Akib was out in Vegas with us with Chantel, and he was over there sparring and training and just soaking it all up, and I wanted him to come to get him used to stuff like that. You know, I never experienced that sort of stuff as a fighter myself ever. So for him to be able to be in a position now where he's signed with Matchroom early on, you know, they're going to be able to navigate him through and develop his career well. So yeah, hopefully he can get on a card. You know, I don't know what the plans are for Chantel's next fight yet. Maybe that might be back in America, and if so, then maybe we could get Akib on the undercard.
Chantel was who I was going to come on to next. When we last spoke, is on the back of her victory against Melissa Hernandez, and she mentioned that she was looking at Mary McGee. Is that what you see as being the most likely fight?
Yeah, I know Matchroom have approached Mary McGee and they're trying to negotiate a deal. I think she's boxing in August against her mandatory, so if that's the case, then the fight probably won't happen until towards the end of the year. But that's definitely the fight, or one of the fights, what we're looking at. Basically, Eddie wants to get her unified, trying to get her undisputed. So unification fights looks like the path what she's going to go down then, and then going into the new year, then we'll look for some bigger fights after that if she comes through successfully.
Looking at that then, say if it was unifications and undisputed, is the plan after that, if Katie Taylor's still fighting, to try and make an undisputed fight?
I think so. What bigger fight would there be than undisputed lightweight versus undisputed super lightweight? I think it's a great fight for boxing fans, but Chantel's really should be on her own path. She is on her own path. She's an exciting fighter in her own right, and as much as we've got all the respect in the world for Katie Taylor, I don't think she should try and define her career around Katie Taylor. I think Katie should have her career, Chantel should have hers, and if they cross paths, then great.
Stephen Ward not here today. What is the latest with Stephen?
Yeah, Stephen, it's difficult at the moment. There's still limited numbers of fights on shows, so Stephen's just waiting for a date. We had that Kukabayev fight over in Kazakhstan, which he had to pull out of because he had issues inside his family. So yeah, hopefully maybe that fight can be made again for him in the future. He's brand new at cruiserweight. He's only had the one fight at cruiserweight, but he's definitely suited more better to it. So whatever really we can get for Stephen now. I think he's 31 or 32, so he hasn't got loads of years left. So we really need to get a move on with him now.
Is he feeling frustrated at all, knowing that you're seeing a lot of kind of the domestic cruiserweight division is stacked with plenty of potential fights for him, and you see him matched up? Is it frustrating him that maybe he's not necessarily being mentioned in that mix?
Well, maybe, but I think to be fair to them, they're all established at cruiserweight, and Stephen's brand new at cruiserweight, so he's only had the one fight. So maybe he needs another fight to sort of cement himself or stamp his name in the mix with all the rest of the cruiserweights. But I don't see why he shouldn't be involved. I think there's some real good domestic matchups to be made, and I think Stephen fits in there nicely.
Rocky Fielding, anything going on with him?
Rocky's over in Dubai at the minute, so he's got out of the way during all the lockdowns, and he's living over there with his family. But he's looking at fighting maybe towards the end of the year. He wants to try and get a little late round on him first because he's not boxed for so long, and then he wants one last run at it and see if he can get involved in some big fights. Is
there anyone who he has his eye on in particular? I know the John Ryder fight has been mentioned previously. Is that something which he wants to revisit?
Well, he's not been mentioned, but I'm sure if that fight came up, then Rocky would be well interested in that. Obviously they've got history, and it was a close fight. And the first time Rocky just nicked it. So, John Ryder's come on in leaps and bounds by then as well, and Rocky's had some real good success and been involved in big fights. So there's a bit of history there. So why not? Yeah.
Martin Murray and Carl Frampton, are they enjoying retirement?
Yeah, from what I can see, yeah, Martin comes down here. He's starting coaching people now. He's sort of early stages of starting helping a few local lads out, and he comes down here once a week, just coming down, doing a bit of tech sparring and stuff. So he's still here, still involved, and yeah, I mean, Carl Frampton just looks like he's getting a bit fat, and Nigel Travis, you need to grow up.
For those who won't know, Nigel Travis has just tried to come up behind me and pull my pants down, but thankfully I'm wearing a belt today.
You've got dungarees on as well. so yeah, no, Carl looks like he's real content and happy, which it's all you can ever ask for. When a fighter retires, you don't want him having them what ifs and sort of contemplating making comebacks and stuff like that. There's nothing more I enjoy than seeing a fighter content and happy that they've had a good career and they can just relax and enjoy the family time. So that's what he's doing.
Jamie, well, Scott, just want to touch on a few other things in boxing before I let you go. This weekend there is an undisputed battle at 154, Jermell Charlo and Castano. Your thoughts on it?
Great fight. I think the styles should really gel for a good fan-friendly fight. It's a tough pick. Castano's probably, I think, he's a little bit of a favourite. He's Charlo's established. He's been there, been round the block a few times, but I'm keeping my eye on it. Obviously, for obvious reasons, with Tursun looking at trying to get a world title shot in the not too distant future. But if I had to put a bet on it, I'd probably go Castano, but it's not with any proper conviction.
moving forwards, well, rather moving backwards. We obviously had the recent disappointing news of the COVID outbreak in Tyson Fury's camp, delaying the Wilder Fury 3 or Fury Wilder 3 trilogy bout. I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, I was disappointed when it was made to have the fight in the first place. Everybody, all boxing fans around the world, I'd imagine, wanted to see Fury v AJ. I'm not sure what this delay is going to do. Is it going to push the fight back and to the point where it doesn't happen? Is Wilder going to take someone else on in the meantime? It's difficult, you know, and I think they're struggling with dates, with the venue and stuff. They can't get anything till October. So I don't know. I think maybe if the fight doesn't, I honestly don't see the fight, the sort of meaning for the fight. I don't think it means much at this moment in time, because if Wilder went away, re-established himself, you know, got a couple of good wins, then you'd maybe think that, well, number one, he'd have a better chance with Fury because he'd rebuild confidence and stuff like that. I just don't see the mileage in it. It was so dominant, the last performance from Tyson Fury, and I really worry about Wilder's mindset because of the stuff he's coming out with about, you know, all the conspiracy theories about the gloves and stuff. He's not really addressing the real problems and the real reason why he lost. And you know, it's worrying for him, I believe, and maybe the delay has actually benefited him, because I don't think it would have boded well for him going into that fight with Tyson Fury in 2 weeks' time, in the mindset he was in.
Joyce Takam is only a matter of a couple of weeks away as well. Just to get your thoughts on that, Jamie.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Joe Joyce. I think he's gone right under the radar. I think that, you know, his win against Dubois is really underrated, and you know, again, he's been really fast-tracked. He had a good experience in the amateurs, but Takam's a good, solid fighter. I just think that Joe Joyce is the type of heavyweight. He doesn't look great on the eye, but he's so effective in what he does. His work rate's phenomenal. His boxing ability is underrated, I think, as well. You know, his stature and his sort of ranginess is a real problem for people. I think he'll do a number on Takam, I really do. I think Takam's a tough guy, but I think Joyce will probably get him out of there in 5 or 6 rounds.
Dillian Whyte and Charles Martin have had a few words exchanged over social media. Would you be interested in seeing a battle between the pair of them, Jamie?
I love Dillian Whyte. I think he's absolutely brilliant. And do you know what? Charles Martin, I was there when AJ won the title against him, and you know, everyone thought it was a flash in the pan. He's had these problems by all accounts, you know, in his personal life. So if he's re-establishing himself and getting back in the mix, and maybe he gets a win or two under his belt, then I don't see why not. But I don't really think he deserves the opportunity to fight Dillian Whyte, considering how long Dillian's waited around for an opportunity himself, and he's still not got it. Then for someone like Charles Martin to sort of jump the queue and try and get that opportunity, even though I think Dillian had walked through Charles Martin, I really do. I just don't think he deserves the opportunity yet.
Another fight just stand on 154. I just want to get your thoughts on these. One, if it was to happen between Tim Tszyu and Liam Smith, I know that Tim called out Liam. Liam said he's open for it. Yeah. What would be your thoughts on it? Also, again, just a fight which I imagine Tursin will keep his eye on. Yeah,
of course. I mean, Liam Smith's, again, I think he's a massively underrated fighter. Such a good fighter on the inside. His body work's phenomenal. And I don't think he'd have any problems with Tim Tszyu. I really don't. I think Tszyu, he struggles to get out of his dad's shadow sometimes, and that can be a problem with a lot of fighters who've had dads who are legends. But he seems to have established himself in his own right a little bit, and he's had some good wins. But I think Liam Smith's style is all wrong for him. You know, you need you on the end of the shots, and Liam's not going to be there. Liam will right on his chest and working him over. So I think it's a good fight for Liam. I really do.
Jamie, I imagine, as I said at the start, you're as disappointed as what I am from this past weekend. Just kind of get your reflections on England's failure to win the European Championships.
Yeah, it was obviously disappointing. Everyone had high expectations, but we can't take away from the fact that they did so well. And considering everything what's gone on in the country over the last 16, 17 months, it was a welcome sort of way of the country reuniting with each other again. It was great to see crowds back at Wembley, and long may it continue. But I think the lads did us really proud.
Jamie, 2 hours later, picking this back up. One thing I forgot to ask you about, I think it might have been when Nigel tried to pull my trousers down and he's kind of threw me a bit, was obviously Jack Catterall and Josh Taylor. What is the latest with that?
Yeah, I'm hearing that it's looking like November. in Scotland. Josh Taylor, homecoming obviously, and an all British showdown. So, you know, all the signs are good. I think Josh has had a little niggle on his hand, so that's why there's a little bit of a delay after that last fight. But apparently it's nothing too serious, and yeah, it's looking like November.
I know there was a lot of talk on the back of Josh's win. You know, Terence Crawford's name in particular was being thrown about. For you guys, did you have any concerns that Jack may not actually have ended up fighting Josh next, and Josh might have decided to take on another opportunity?
I think that's a worry in every scenario. You know, every fight, what you've got coming up, if your fight is going to be challenging for the title, and they're not in a position where, you know, I mean, Jack is in a mandatory position, but obviously Josh has got all the belts and he's in a strong position. I get it, I understand. Josh wants big fights and stuff, but Jack Catterall's waited a long time for it. He deserves his opportunity. He did the right thing in letting Josh go ahead, you know, without causing any problems and fight for all the belts. And really, he did that for two reasons. One, because it was the right thing to do in terms of, from a boxing point of view, to get all the belts together. And then number two, he then gets to fight not just for one belt, but for the undisputed titles. So yeah, you know, the agreement was beforehand. Josh will fulfil that afterwards and then move up, and I'm sure he will do that.
I spoke to Nigel earlier, and Nigel said you guys will be going up there to rip away Josh's belts. Do you carry as much confidence as what Nigel does? I know you're going to obviously back Jack and you'll be confident he can win, but Nigel's very, very confident that Jack will win and look good doing so.
Yeah, I'm 100% confident Jack can win that fight. I'm 100% confident in Jack Catterall, and that's the thing. I know how good Jack is. I see how good he is day in, day out. I see when he spars, the better fighter he spars, the better he performs, which a lot of good fighters are like that. You know, they sort of fights to the level of their opposition. So Josh Taylor is a phenomenal fighter, so he will bring the best out in Jack Catterall. That's why I truly believe that Jack's capable of pulling off. Is it an easy fight? No. Why would it be an easy fight at that level in boxing? But I'm just confident in my guy.
Right, Jamie, I appreciate your time today. Now we've got a little tour to do with your new gym, so thanks, Peter Boxing Social.
Yep, no worries, mate. Let's have a look around.